Good day, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Unleash with FTEM, Unleash with From the Expert's Mouth. And today we have a very interesting episode lined up for you with multiple threads in this promising conversation with Siddhartha Das, the CEO and founder of BigGrocer. So, Siddharth, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rajiv. Very
Great.
glad to be a part of this talk show. And I hope we all get to learn a lot out of this interaction and also from your own expertise in this area.
Uh, Yeah, surely, Siddharth. That's the whole premise of Unleash with FTM, that guests come onto the platform, share their experiences, and a lot of other people resonate with their journeys and have lessons to take away from the same. So, on that note, Siddharth, let's start from the very beginning, from your initial background and your journey leading up to the point when you got to start this venture called Big Grocer.
Sure. I started my career back in 2001 in the FMCG space, worked for a very short while with Johnson& and Johnson. And then I gradually moved over to the technology side, initially with consumer products and eventually with B2B products at a global level. In fact, my last role, a professional role that I held was that with CleverTap as the VP and head of product worldwide. So at the beginning of this pandemic, and it was something that was there in my mind for a long time, because for the last 15 years, I had been associated with customer engagement and customer loyalty sort of platforms built for B2B and retail organizations mostly. And focusing around customer experience, how to measure and even better customer experience. And I thought the best application of all that I have learned would be to help small and medium entrepreneurs to actually improve their engagement with their own customers, because not only the scale is huge, but probably they need that extra kick with the technology to be able to make a difference to their existing businesses. And that's the genesis of whatever we are doing with BigGrocer today.
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting. We'll come to the venture part of your journey in a bit, but having spent so many years, in employment with large multinational companies like Johnson and Johnson and tech companies in the startup ecosystem, how easy or difficult was the decision to start off on your own, and what were the factors that were playing in your mind around it?
So, like they say, right, in order to be an entrepreneur, you need to be deeply dissatisfied with whatever you are doing. Okay, you always have that feeling that there's a call of duty, either towards your own self or towards the society, which actually eventually drives you to move out of that comfort zone and do something. Okay, and while the pandemic had set in, it also gave us extra time to think about something. And because most of the time when you are in a professional role, you are deeply occupied with your job. So when you have some extra time, you start thinking about the problem and trying thinking about means and solutions to that problem. And once you think that you have something close which could be worked upon, is when probably you take the leap of faith. But having said that, and having made the transition from a professional career into entrepreneurship, I can tell you today, after 2.5 years, that what we initially thought of was the problem and the solution, and where we are today is entirely different. You have to jump into the pool to feel the water, whether it's warm, whether it's hot, whether you love it or not. But it's very different when you try to assess the situation from outside. And once you jump into it, it's very different. And like they say, persistence always pays, right? So we have been through multiple pivoting and iterations till the time we see something where we are, which looks very promising in terms of a product market fit and in terms of scalability going forward.
Right. And you mentioned about the fact that there were 2 or 3 iterations that you guys did while starting up Big Grocer.
Right.
And I think that's one of the key takeaways also for aspiring entrepreneurs. So run us through what those iterations were, and how did your thinking and your business model itself pivot along these different dimensions over the last couple of years that you've been on your own?
Okay. So it's going to be a long answer because there are so many iterations. As I said, we started off with a loyalty and a campaigns platform. for these small businesses. And once we launched it initially, so that they can take some orders with 1 or 2 clicks, they can capture an offline order and provide some benefits to the customer, in order with the objective of generating engagement or re-engagement for the customer, like coupons and some points, and a combination of those, which is much easily palatable compared to the typical loyalty programs that you find at corporate brands. And very soon we tried to figure out, we started digging into the levers that actually turn customers, or influence customers loyalty over a period of time. And then we tried to figure out, okay, what is the difference between a small business and like a grocery store versus a supermarket? And why is it that in spite of having a good personal relationship, why do people go to a supermarket or an online platform? And that's where we figured out some basic benefits that customers look out for, besides the trust and the relationship, like availability of items, the range of items, to the deal that they get out there. That was the second iteration, where we provided all the stores with an extended catalog, which means you need not stock the product. You just show the data to the customer. Once the customer orders that item, we will try to deliver that item as quickly as possible to your store, so that you can further hand it over to your end customers. So we tied up with Amazon Wholesale for the city of Bangalore initially, and started development both ways, I mean at our end as well as Amazon's end, so that we can integrate. The third iteration was when we decided to launch it in a tier 2 and 3 city, because the market was very receptive to such a kind of thing, because they were not exposed to the likes of the other e-commerce platforms like a Big Basket or a Zepto or a Blinkit or Grofers, for that example. And we thought that, okay, it is an easy market to catch. There are low hanging fruits that you can really start your trial with that. And that's where, we did not really intend to do it for tier 2 and 3 cities, but we thought that we had a platform which will work for tier 1, 2 and 3 cities alike. So why not start the pilot in tier 2 and 3 cities? And that's where we figured out that we had better, product market fit on those cities. The primary reason being that people have a slightly little bit of more time out there, and the personal relationships are much stronger in the smaller cities. And the fourth iteration is where we figured out that in smaller cities, the stores don't do the home delivery. So I think within a span of 2 months, we developed and launched a home delivery platform of our own, hired a home delivery team, very large team of 1 person, just to try it out. And, within no time, there was a need for, adding more people into the home delivery team. We also tried other things like, what we call a home delivery calling bell service for offline businesses. If they want to send something to somebody's home, they can press on the calling bell and someone will appear to take that item and deliver it to the customer. But, while we were trialing with that one single delivery person and we moved over to multiple delivery people, that's when we took the second step of, figuring out that the personal relationship which we thought was there between the customer and the store owner has now transformed and changed into a personal relationship between the delivery person and the customer or the consumer. So that there comes the fourth or the fifth iteration, where we said that for a given area there will be only one delivery person, so that no matter whenever a customer orders, it's the same face that appears in front of that customer. We also incentivize them based on the business that is generated in the area. And finally, landing up with the final version that we have of a virtual supermarket franchising. So what we are doing now is we are converting these delivery reps into micro entrepreneurs, within a catchment area of about half a kilometer. So now we have a model where anybody can become, the owner of a virtual supermarket with absolutely zero investment, having to work almost, or in terms of effort, they'll have to spend nearly half the effort of what a typical store owner or a grocery store owner puts in, and make twice the money and have a lot of happy customers in their locality or neighborhood. So that's the outcome that we have today.
Right. Yeah, that just sounds too good to be true, particularly in the current times when we are seeing, the dissatisfaction level of people being associated with the, quick commerce or the online grocery ecosystem as such. And there are quite a few threads. But firstly, just to, pick up one of the threads that you mentioned about, you've
Mhm.
pivoted some 4 or 5 different times in this short span of about what, a couple of years?
Yeah, 2.5 years, you can say, two
Two and a
years.
half years. Yeah. And these are significant pivots, from loyalty solutions to, catalog services to, e-commerce to, almost creating mini franchises or micro entrepreneurs as part of the current model. So how have you been able to manage so many different pivots? And I'm sure, there must be some secrets that you have about, building MVPs or building, pilots or, beta business models. So, run us through your mental models of how you approach this concept of building a business from scratch, quickly testing it and seeing whether it works or not, and then pivoting to something else which you find probably more attractive.
Okay. So there are two parts to my answer to this question. One is the right mix or the right balance between persistence and knowing when to pull the plug.
Hmm.
The second part is also about figuring out the right metrics. What are the levers or the drivers? In fact, 15 years of product management career actually helped me shape up to this level of whatever I am doing today, to be able to pivot fast, to be able to think really out of the box and figure out, take the early inputs and incorporate it into your thinking. More important, typically what happens is no matter whatever you do, initially you will see some traction. Now, whether that traction is the right level of traction, you always think that, oh, if I were to put in a little bit of marketing dollars, then probably the traction would increase. But what is the point of acquiring customer when you're not able to retain those customers? It is a leaky bucket problem, like you say in customer experience terms or customer engagement terms. So you have to look at the repeat rates. You have to look at, naturally by word of mouth, what level of customer comes in. And this is something which can be inflated later on with enough of marketing push or spending marketing dollars. But if you don't have the right product market fit, or more
Mhm.
importantly, defining the matrix of your product market fit, or able to explicitly express the levers and how you are changing the levers that drives consumer experience or satisfaction is key, right? And even
Right.
before we launched, we figured out, okay, what are the drivers? Are we, we just kept on doing a side project as to figuring out the customer psyche and trying to figure out what do the customers want, right? Is it like discounts? Is it like free home deliveries? Is it like 15-minute deliveries? Right? Is it like very good quality items? So this is what we try to figure out. And on the other hand, there are things about, besides the benefits, there is things about trust. How do you build trust? How do you interact with the customer? Do you do a robotic delivery, or do you really interact with that individual without being too intrusive into their personal lives, right? And that is where the typical scenario of a tier 1 versus a tier 2 and 3 city is very different. People are more
Right.
receptive to personal interactions, and the delivery rep, if he or she actually interacts a little bit more with the customer feels good about it, opens up about quality issues, which every business is going to have during the teething, those teething problems during the initial days. Now, it is managing customer experience. If you have the delivery rep or the personal connect who manages the customer's expectations, okay, that
Mhm.
becomes very key to your long term success.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, quite a few things you packed up in that answer here.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, firstly, I think, from the audience perspective, the leaky bucket problem is a, great analogy to give to what is happening, not just in the online grocery or the quick commerce sort of space, but in a lot of other, segments of the startup ecosystem. And just to spend a minute on that one, essentially what we are saying is that you have a leaky bucket, which essentially means that customers leak out, and even though you keep pouring marketing dollars into your bucket and keep acquiring more and more customers, over a period of time they will keep pouring out. And once you stop pouring the marketing dollars, you will realize that everything is being drained away. And in the first place itself, a lot of these business models do not have positive unit economics. So in any case, you're not making money at any stage whatsoever, uh, right?
Right. So I'll
So
give you a good an example that we learned, firsthand. In fact, two examples. The first one is about personal relationship. When we had that one single delivery rep, moment we changed the delivery rep, a lot of customers actually complained. Some even stopped ordering, saying that your initial delivery rep was a very nice person. He was so receptive to the comments and the suggestions we gave. He was so nice while interacting with us. He took care of us. But the new delivery reps, they're pretty robotic in nature because we hired them from some competition, food delivery business competition, who were, trained in such a way that, you just go and deliver that pack, don't open it or whatever, right? We learned our second lesson. And that happens in mostly in marketplaces where there are multiple sellers, and if each one of them would list more or less the same set of items but with different varying levels of quality, and the one with the poorest quality will have the least price, and customers will check the, compare the prices, go in for the one with the lowest poorest quality, but expect the highest quality when they receive it, right? So
right.
that's another reason. There are multiple reasons like this which leads to the dissatisfaction. In fact, while
Yeah.
we hire, we actually look for very different set of people, because we call them as customer development officers. Okay, they are
Mhm.
actually micro entrepreneurs. They are representatives of the company or the brand, and their fate is complete, or our fate is completely related to their own fate and how they perform on the field. So there's a lot of training
Right.
in required. We need to pick and choose those, those sets of customer development officers, going through some kind of a process, through a filtration process. And there are certain parameters. The system has been modeled in such a way that your primary delivery happens within half a kilometer from where your home is, as a customer delivery officer. As a result, what happens is, they can deliver around 50 to 60 deliveries a day within 4 to 5 hours, because most of these deliveries they can actually walk up and deliver. They don't even
Right.
need to bring out their bicycle or their motorcycle. That's number one. So that helps us also reduce the cost, because on an average, our delivery distances are around 300, 400 meters. Okay. That's the thing. So this is the least last mile delivery. We cannot call it the last mile as well. It's the
Right.
last few hundred meters, right?
Right.
So it reduces the carbon footprint. It reduces the time to deliver. It reduces the, the distance, the fuel burn and all that.
Mhm.
Okay, and they are able to service a larger number of orders in a particular day or within that short span of time. Okay, so if you look at efficiency, if you look at the lifestyle, these people are stationed in their homes, and whenever in 3 batches we deliver the items to their home, who in turn are supposed to go and deliver it to the customer within their localities, they can actually complete every cycle in 1 to 1.5 hours per day, right? So unlike competition or any other industry or similar industries where you can see the delivery reps running around in the middle of the hot sun or in the rain, here their lives, are much better. Uh, if I say the gross income that they make in a month is almost double of either a grocery store, a small mid-sized grocery store, or even a delivery rep from a
Right.
competition.
Right. Yeah, so that's, I mean, the best of both worlds. And just to put things in context, you're not talking about tier one cities here. You're talking about tier three sort of cities where
Tier two,
the income levels will certainly be much lower, right?
right? Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. And I think more importantly, from the perspective of these micro entrepreneurs, what you're getting is not just a job or an entrepreneurship or a micro entrepreneurship opportunity. You're also developing all-rounded, well-rounded skills that can help you in whatever facet of life that you choose to build your career in.
Exactly.
Because yeah, because you're managing your own venture, you're managing the customer relationships, you're getting trained, to be more than a robo and to actually understand the customer and respond to their problems instead of just saying that is from the back office, we don't know anything. I mean, that's the typical response that you would typically get from a delivery boy in metro cities, because everything is kind of all the decisions are taken at some other level altogether, and they
Exactly.
have absolutely no autonomy or decision making in their hands.
Right.
Right.
So that's why what we are doing right now is we are also tying up with the state level rural and urban livelihood missions. okay,
Hmm.
who source all those candidates for us, who we can actually interview and take them through a screening process for training. And the rural and the urban livelihood missions actually work with us, provide us the training support also with their set of trainers. And the field training is what our team does today. Okay,
Hmm.
and if you look at the government, it also helps them generate that level of employment, bringing technology at a very grassroots level, right? And it's a very synergistic thing that we work alongside the state governments to actually generate employments and handsome livelihood for a lot of people with the very different skill sets.
Right, right. So, a lot of people who are in employment these days are thinking about, hopping onto the entrepreneurial bandwagon.
Mhm.
And of course, you mentioned earlier in the beginning of this conversation that be prepared for something totally different. And, the first couple of years are going, in your case, you've pivoted your model so many times. But on another note, for all these people who are kind of speculating on whether to leave the comfort of employment, whether they are dissatisfied or not, as you mentioned. Uh, what would your advice be if they had to hop on to the entrepreneurial bandwagon?
So I think, like they say, the why becomes very important, right? The why, in my opinion, cannot be just like making 2x of whatever I'm making in my corporate job today. The why has to be much deep rooted, and that why actually leads to the persistence that eventually an entrepreneur shows. And some people might be lucky, but overall what I have figured out, and it's true that every journey is unique, every journey is unique. There is no hard and fast rule that you do A, B, C, and you will get the outcome, this outcome, that outcome. So in my opinion, you need to define the why, right? It has to be, in my case, it's a deep, as I said, deep dissatisfaction within. In some cases, it also, you also feel that, okay, whatever objective I am not able to meet up today, or basically you have to like that, or have a liking for the journey that you go through, right? I mean, someone who is not interested in trekking, just ask him about what you think about trekking. So he'll say that it's a foolish thing to do. You are
Right,
not going to a particular place. It's so dangerous. It's so difficult. You are just climbing up a mountain. Why don't you take a helicopter and ask you to drop on top? But it is not about the destination. It is the journey that people actually enjoy. Maybe the adrenaline rush in some
right,
cases, right? So it's very difficult to say who should take the leap, who should not take the leap. Okay. It is all about the why and how deeply entrenched that why is in within you, in your psyche. And how
right,
long can you persist? To what extent can you go? If you think that I'll just try it along the sides, most likely you will not succeed. You cannot keep your, you know, put your two legs on two different boats and still think of becoming successful. But again, this is not the hard and fast rule. There are many people who have
right,
done it multiple things and in parallel and has become successful. So call it destiny or not, or whether, as I say, there is no perfect recipe. Okay, you cannot say that these inputs will lead to that outcome. But overall, what I figure out is the why becomes very important, and your persistence eventually pays out. Pays.
right.
That's what I
Yeah,
feel.
absolutely. And I have one last segment to cover. But before we do that, just one, shout out to the audience. In this conversation with Siddharth, we've got a lot of value, learning from his experiences and journey. So if you feel that way, do smash the like button and do subscribe to this channel, because we've got other episodes of Unleash with FTM coming up every Friday. And watch the playlist if you want to check out the other episodes. And, with that, let me come to the last segment of the discussion, Siddharth, which
Mhm.
is one of the very crucial points you mentioned about knowing when to pull the plug. A lot of people talk about, how and when to jump into the entrepreneurial bandwagon. The why that you mentioned is, of course, super critical. But, pulling the plug is not that easy. And one of the things you mentioned is striking the right balance between perseverance and knowing when to pull the plug. So that's easier said than done. And what has been your experience? Because not with your venture itself, but with the business models, you've done it about 3 or 4 times already. So, how easy or difficult it is, and what have been your thoughts racing in your mind as you have approached these decisions?
Okay. I don't have a perfect answer, and I don't claim that whatever I'm going to say, maybe 6 months down the line, I'll be telling you the same thing. So, what has happened? I can only share what has happened, what has been my experience in this journey. What we have figured out is that there are certain metrics. Say, for example, number of customers who are onboarding, or average customer order value. If these are the metrics, what we figured out is that in order to reach or increase that customer or per order value, what is that friction that you have to go through? How many problems do you face? How many problems do you have to solve on a day-to-day basis? Is it a smooth flow towards the ramp up, or is it not? Right? Even that can't tell you when to pull the plug. In our case, or especially in my case, what has happened is whenever I saw those customers that, the repetitive problems or the nature of the problems that crop up, I come up with a better idea to solve this problem. And that becomes the mainstay or the basis of my new pivot. Okay. So call it luck, call it, your ability to keep your ears on the ground and listen to the ground level problems. Uh, you know, you either come up with a better idea or a better approach and figure out that it's better to do it because your transition or your ramp up becomes smoother. That is one, when you decide to pull the plug. But pulling the plug altogether and saying that I'm going to quit this entrepreneurial journey is still something that I have to go through, okay, myself.
Right, right.
So maybe they're not the right person to tell you when to pull the plug as of now.
Yeah, but yeah, pulling the plug or pivoting your business model itself is an invaluable lesson, because you may not you may not need to quit your entrepreneurial journey, but you may certainly need to tweak your business model,
Yes.
or maybe adopt a different business model altogether. And there is a timing for everything. Sometimes a business model is right but is ahead of its time. Sometimes it's too late in the day. Sometimes it's in the right geography and hence it succeeds, and sometimes it's in the wrong geography and hence doesn't. I mean, there are so many external factors, and luck plays, and external circumstances play a huge role in determining the outcome. But I think all we can take away is the right sort of process, the right sort of thought process, the cognition that we bring to the table when we are thinking about some of these aspects. I think that's all we can do, and do our best. And the rest, as we always like to say, a balance of karma and destiny will lead us to
Yes.
our
Very
destination.
important, actually.
Right. Yeah. On a spiritual note of karma and destiny, I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much, Siddharth, for sharing your thoughts and experiences and precious words of wisdom with us and our listeners. Any parting words from you, Siddharth?
No, first of all, thank you, Rajivji, for this outstanding opportunity to be able to share our journey and also to highlight, the role that BigGrocer is playing in not only in solving a deep customer problem, but also helping the society, and multiple aspects in terms of employment, in terms of better lifestyle for delivery reps or people, or creating or transforming a delivery rep into a micro entrepreneur, if you may call it. So, all I would like to say is I wish the best of luck to anyone who wants to step onto this entrepreneurial bandwagon. I think that everyone should try it once, and it will give you a very different perspective to your life. Not only in whatever you are doing, you might eventually go back and take up a corporate job, which is absolutely okay. Some people even enjoy doing that and are even successful doing it while doing it. But the entrepreneurial journey will actually teach you a lot beyond the role that you have been playing, and what your current role in your organization actually helps you to learn. Okay, so the learning experience is enormous, and if nothing else, this is one of the main takeaways from this journey.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks once again, Siddharth. And if you're looking for inspiration to begin your entrepreneurial journey, check out the other episodes of Unleash with FTM. We've had people who started their journey while in college, building businesses while they were in college, and scaling up as soon as they got out of it. We've had people who have been on this episode who started their entrepreneurial journey at 78 years of age.
Wow.
So, age is clearly no barrier, whether you are a student in school or college, or whether you are well into your 70s or 80s. It is for everybody. Try it out for once and enjoy the journey, and enjoy this channel and enjoy these episodes. With that, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you so much.